morning, Evergreen Online, and happy early Lunar New Year. Now this morning we have changed locations from our gathering from Arcadia County Park to host a Park in the Church gathering on our Rosemead campus. Now due to weather forecasts and some lingering hesitation about the air quality, we just thought it would be more comfortable for everyone to meet indoors at church this week. We also know that the week's inauguration may have heaped an extra layer of anxiety and big emotions on top of whatever we were dealing with in the aftermath of the fires. Now that's a lot of stuff that you might be dealing with. And so the staff thought it helpful to provide a little extra space for worship and prayer this morning. So as we start church in the park, as we start Park in the Church, we're going to gather for a brief time in the sanctuary and just worship and pray together. The pastors will be available for you, and there will be a guided time to pray as a congregation, interspersed by some worship. There's nothing complicated and no pressure. Just come and receive if you want. Now after that time, we'll head over to the fellowship hall and enjoy some delicious dim sum treats from Blooming VIP in Rosemead. Sounds like a great morning, doesn't it? Now if you're close by, get in your car and come down and join us. I, however, will not be joining you because I tested positive for COVID-19 this weekend. This is my first time ever testing positive, so I'll be staying home to try and prevent exposure to everyone. Someone can eat my chashu bao for me. Now, I want to make you aware of some important announcements coming up in the life of our church. Our youth group is headed to retreat on Valentine's Day weekend next month. But next week, after service, they will be holding a bake sale to help earn money for scholarships. As you might guess, campsites have raised their prices over the last few years, so the money they earn at the bake sale will help ensure all of our students can go. Bring your wallets and cash and satisfy your sweet tooth while helping provide scholarships for our students. On Saturday, February 8th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., we'll be hosting a NonAnxious Life half-day retreat. Author, speaker, and my personal spiritual director, Alan Fadling, will be coming to facilitate our time based on his new book, A NonAnxious Life. He'll be there to help us find peace in practicing God's presence. Now, I wager that every single one of us is feeling anxious from the new administration, the fires, and their aftermath, or just kind of the chaos of our personal circumstances and situations. Now, this will be a meaningful time of teaching and reflection and just creating space for you to spend time with Jesus to help us better cultivate more peace amid chaos. Now, let's be honest, we are currently living in a lot of chaos. Now, one special note about this retreat: in light of the recent fires, we have received a grant from ABCO Flash, our American Baptist Regional Office, to help cover the costs of the retreat. Now with this grant, we will be reducing the price of the retreat to $10 a person instead of $40. What a deal. The $10 that you pay just helps to go and cover food costs. Now, additionally, and pay attention here, this is a really great part, we will be offering this retreat to any local mental health professional, clergy or campus minister, or those impacted by the wildfires at no cost. That's right, if you are in a field that has been affected by the fires, or you yourself have been impacted by the fires, this retreat is completely free. We want to make this completely available for you. You will still need to register so we can print out enough materials and order enough food, but you won't have to pay a dime. I hope this will lower any barriers, and people who may be experiencing the most disruption in their lives right now can take advantage of this opportunity. Now please spread the word and extend the invitation to others in your network, and I know that we're going to have a great and meaningful retreat with Alan. Now, everyone is welcome to hang out at our annual Super Bowl party on Sunday, February 9th, the next day after the retreat, at 3:30 in the Ministry Center Fellowship Hall. There will be, as always, great food, a chance to win some stellar prizes, and enjoy some fun company while you're watching the game. There is a minimal donation of $10 just to help cover food costs, but if you're interested in helping out or you have any questions, please contact Pastor Jonathan. Now, as you know, our friends at the church we hope for in Pasadena have been collecting gallon water bottles and distributing to their neighbors just below Eaton Canyon. This has proved to be a lot more convenient for residents because they don't have to wait in long lines at the bigger evacuation centers, and they can have trusted water to drink and wash their dishes in. We partnered with them along with a number of other congregations, and there were hundreds of gallons of water that was donated. So thank you for your donations, because it's really helping the residents of Pasadena and making this a more convenient option for them. Now, some of you may have heard that the church we hope for has been displaced as a congregation since the fires. Wind damage and toxic ash have prevented them from worshiping safely in their building. And you can imagine this is a lot of disruption for their church. Many who have damaged or lost homes, and now they are displaced as a congregation. And so the staff and board have decided to invite them to worship on our campus for a couple of weeks while things settle down. They will be meeting on our Rosemead campus in the late afternoon when their typical service is on Sundays. We hope this will help them worry less about where they have to meet so that they can be released to focus more on the incredible relief work that they are doing in Pasadena. I invite you to cover our friends in prayer and bless our space with a spirit of hospitality that they might feel at home on our campus. You can check out the other announcements on the online bulletin or in my weekly email. And now, let's center ourselves as we take a moment to worship together.
I love you, Lord, though your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, and I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest nights, you close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God, and I will sing of the goodness of God.
Now, on Christmas Eve of last year, Pope Francis pushed open the holy door on St. Peter's Basilica, which will remain open to millions of pilgrims in 2025. I don't know how many of you knew about this, but this gesture of him pushing open this sacred door marks the start of the 2025 Holy Year, where people are encouraged to make pilgrimages to obtain indulgences and cultivate their spiritual journey. Now, this practice of the Catholic Church happens every 25 to 50 years, and the last one was in the year 2000, which Pope John Paul II ushered in. Now, when I read about this occurrence or this event right before Christmas of last year, I saved the article because I thought, wow, 2025 is going to be a really special year. Well, I guess special is one way to look at it. A holy year? I'm not so sure. I mean, we're not even out of January, and it feels like we're buried under heaps of catastrophe. Now, was the Catholic Church wrong? Was the Pope wrong? I bet some Catholics in the LA area are wondering that. Now, apparently, the Holy Year is full of various special commemorative activities and celebrations every couple months that the Pope attends throughout the year. And so the entire year becomes one festive and sacred celebration. It's actually not that different conceptually to what we had planned or what we have planned, except to a much larger and more expensive degree, of course. We don't have as much money as the Catholic Church. But I wondered if the Pope is ever shaken by the world's events and disasters and has doubts whether, especially on these special years, whether the year really is a holy year. Now, last week we introduced our 2025 annual theme, Sacred Celebration, where we'll be taking the entire centennial year to explore the different layers of godly celebration. From the holy days to the festivals and fasts, the Bible is full of God's command to celebrate. Now, I anticipated this year to have some rough spots with the election that we knew was coming. And even with the Trump loss, I suspected that there might be political violence like before. But now with the LA fires, the whole month seems to be a rough spot. And apparently COVID is still going around. But as I shared last week, this actually colors our theme. It forces us to go deep, to find out that celebration is more than just a cheerful birthday party, but also a funeral or a communal lament and grieving. And forces us to realize that our rich history as evergreen has something important to say to the world about how faithful our God is. But the question I want us to ponder is this: is this the right time to do this? Like I shared last week, I wrestled with whether to cancel much of our centennial activities because it felt like timing was off. This just didn't seem like the right time for a celebration. You know, I have a few friends that have birthdays in January, and all of them said that they felt weird this year about celebrating their birthday because there was so much tragedy in our city, so much tragedy in the world. And even though their birthday was this month, they felt like the timing was off, that they shouldn't celebrate. Now, I think we can all understand why they felt that way. The wildfires threw off our sermon series that we had planned and our schedule that we had planned this month. So we pushed everything back to devote a service just to grieving a few weeks ago. Now, we were supposed to be in our first sermon series of the year called Anatomy of a Party by now, where we will dissect the common elements of a party to think about how those elements can teach us about celebration and how they interact with kind of a biblical framework. But I want to save the proper introduction to that series for next week when we have a little more time. So today, I do want to talk about it, but I'm just going to give you a little preview. Now, we'll be talking about the time of a party. Because if you think about it, when you're planning a celebration, planning an event, one of the first things you have to decide is the date and time, right? You're sending out invitations. You want to be able to give people a date and time. When will the party be? Some thought has to go into that. And if you're planning a birthday party, it should fall relatively close to the actual birth date, right? If you were born in May, it'd be weird to have your birthday party in November. It wouldn't make sense. If you're planning an anniversary, you want to make sure that you do it every year close to your anniversary, right? Or else you might get in trouble by your partner. So planning the date close to where the meaningful point of time is, when the meaningful date is, and regularity is important for a lot of parties. And on special birthdays, say your 16th or your 18th or 21st, or maybe your 50th or 100th, it is appropriate to make those a little more special, to recognize milestones and special years in one's life. But the question is this right now the right time to celebrate? Now, it's interesting. The Bible actually recognizes some years to be more significant than others. You see, in the book of Leviticus, God tells Moses that as they enter the promised land, the Sabbath is not just to be observed every 7 days, but it is to be celebrated every 7 years as well. Leviticus 25, it says, "The Lord said to Moses at Mount Sinai, 'Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I am going to give you, the land itself must observe a Sabbath to the Lord. For 6 years sow your fields, and for 6 years prune your vineyards, and gather their crops. But in the 7th year the land is to have a year of Sabbath rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. Do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. Do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the grapes of your untended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you, for yourself, your male and female servants, and the hired worker and temporary resident who live among you.'" Now, it's fascinating that this is a year for the land to rest, but within the Sabbath year, everyone rests. The Sabbath year, people have to eat, though, and so people can eat whatever the land produces. The thing is, you as the farmer are not working or producing the food. You're not, I assume, selling much or maybe anything at all, but the land is still giving you what you need. It's still feeding you. The difference is you don't really work for it. It's a celebration year, and I think you're meant to just sit back and let the land rest yourself, and the food is provided by what the land sort of naturally produces, by God. Now, just a few verses down in Leviticus 25, it also says this: "Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the untended vines. For it is a jubilee and is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields." So every 70 years is a Sabbath year. That whole year is holy. But then every 50th year is like a super sacred celebration. It's the year of Jubilee. Now, in the Jubilee year, it's a very big deal. Everyone is supposed to return all property to their original owner. Debts are to be forgiven, people set free. And this is fascinating. Essentially, all wealth must be returned. Now, if you think about it, this prevents anyone from being enslaved for too long. It prevents the accumulation of wealth. It prevents a wealth gap from even forming beyond 5 decades. No oligarchy of the rich and powerful is allowed to be created. Hey, this is in the Bible. It's not from me. Now, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the Bible clearly highlights special years and times for celebration. These dates and times are set, and they recur every few years and every few decades. And this rhythm of celebration is repeated over and over and over again. So do you think there was ever a year where catastrophe marked the calendar? Do you think there was a year where it felt like inappropriate timing to celebrate? I would imagine that there were many times like that, especially back in ancient days. What God is doing is God's setting their calendar for them. On the 7th day, on the 7th year, on the 50th year, you are commanded to have a party. You're commanded to have a memorial. You're commanded to have an anniversary. You are commanded to celebrate. He even sets a natural calendar alarm. In Genesis 1, it says this, "And God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. You see, in the creation of the world, God sets the frequency of celebration. The sun and moon and stars are your calendar alarm, your celestial alarm, to remind you that there are sacred celebration times that you're supposed to observe. And even if the world is full of chaos and tragedy, you are to keep these dates. Now, here's why I think this is critical to understand. You see, built within observing these special dates and years is what I think is the grace of God. It allows you to pause whatever is distressing you, whatever is troubling you, whatever is even exploiting you, whatever is grieving you, so that some goodness can fall on you. Rest, eat, and celebrate. God knows how tragic and sometimes how cruel life can be. And so he arranges the calendar to have these built-in breaks within the flow of time, so as to remind people that God is still in control and wants goodness and blessing for you. The holy years of the Sabbath and the Jubilee, that was the grace of God built into the calendar of human beings. And if the year turns out to be a tremendously difficult one, then maybe the celebration that is built into the calendar can actually save you. Maybe what actually feels like inappropriate timing will turn out to be the perfect timing. So you know what? Maybe the Catholics were right. Maybe it still is a holy year. And especially for us at Evergreen as we celebrate the centennial, it might be a very sacred year for us. Now, did God bring us to be 100 years old so that we can just brush it aside this year? Or did God bring us to be 100 so that our story could speak God's grace into people's lives? One thing's for sure. Although the fires and the political happenings are having a definite impact on all of us, this year does not belong to them. This year does not belong to the Eaton fire, and it doesn't belong to the current administration. This year belongs to God, and it's time to celebrate that. Now, as you reflect on how this year has been or is going to be, I want you also to imagine how this year can be special and sacred. Even if you're noticing that this year is extremely difficult for you, how can this year be wonderful and blessed and meaningful for you? This is God's year, even for you. And in faith, we believe that God is going to work in us this year, even as the world may be in chaos. Our call is to reserve the time, reserve the year for God. And so my benediction this week is an invitation. Dedicate the year to God. Proclaim that this time, these 12 months, belong to Him. And together, we'll learn how to celebrate that even amidst the mayhem that goes on around us. Grace and peace to you all. We'll see you next week for our in-person service. Take care.